What's good? How you day going? Morning, evening, night, whenever you're watching this video. I'm about to get right to the point. We're gonna talk a little bit of ish. More than welcome to fast forward. This is about to be a strange ass video, at least I feel like, right? As I read the title, Family Secretly Watched for 10 Years, Solved Mysteries Episode 4. I did read the description, so I know it is solved. So spoiler alert ahead, you can jump to the video if you want. So when I first read that title before going into the description, I was like, yeah, this clearly sounds like an obsession, because for 10 years watching someone, I was like, there's no way. It sounds like there's no end goal here. There's no plan to actually make a move. It's like, yo, I'm really obsessed with either someone in that home or maybe either the entire family. But then as I read the description, because we do have access to it, this is a real life locked room mystery and a possible murder that Beverly Hills police thought they would never solve. Almost a decade passed. When they finally untangled the truth, they realized that death had been close to the murdered businessman for years before he was killed. So when I read that, I was like, oh wait, never mind. There was a freaking end goal or whatever. But I was like, well, why watch for 10 years? That's a long time. So then I went back to the thought of like, you know what? Maybe, no, you became obsessed with watching these. I don't know. I'm going to let the video go ahead and play. I was like, yo, this sounds like some trippy-ish. But yo, if you want to check out the original video, link will be in the description below. But let's go.
There is a subgenre of detective fiction that deals with locked room mysteries, which are about crimes that are seemingly impossible to commit. The standard example being a murder victim found inside of a room that was locked from the inside. Today, we're going to look at a real-life locked room mystery that took almost a decade to solve. And when the truth finally came out, nobody believed it. It literally sounded like fiction. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right channel, because that's all we do, and we upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please replace the like button's Cocoa Puffs with similarly shaped dog food. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story.
I recently learned that they legit have a team of people they'll hire for that type of job, where it's like, yo, we really need someone who can crack clues. I forgot. I think it was a Mr.Ballen video that we watched back.
On August 22nd, 1922, shots rang out from inside a stately Victorian home in Beverly Hills where Dolly and Fred Ostrich lived. Neighbors called police right away, and when officers stepped into the front door, they saw the entire house was trashed. On the floor in the living room was Fred, who had been shot to death, and next to him were 3 .25 caliber shell casings. With weapons drawn, the police cleared the entire first floor. There was no one down there. They heard screaming coming from upstairs, and so they run up the stairs, and they get up there, and no one's upstairs. And then they heard the screaming again, and they realized it was coming from inside of a closet in the master bedroom. And so as the police are clearing the second floor, they yell out to this woman and they say, "Who are you? What are you doing in the closet?" And she yells back, "I'm Dolly. I'm okay, but I'm trapped." And so after the police finish clearing the upstairs and they're sure it's safe, they go over to the closet door and they do try the handle. It's locked. They ask her, "Do you know where the key is?" And she says no. And so before they start trying to break the door down, they did a quick search of the upstairs to see if maybe they could find the key to the closet. And sure enough, across the hall in another bedroom, they found it on the ground. And so they took the key back, they opened the door up, and out came Dolly. She was okay, but obviously very frantic and panicked. And they asked her, what happened? And she told them a very abrupt and chaotic story. She said she had been hanging clothes inside of this big walk-in closet, and her back was to the door when she heard a fight break out on the first floor. And before she could even turn around to go investigate, she said the closet door was swinging shut, and then she heard it lock from the outside, and she didn't get to see who it was that shut the door. The whole thing was a bit of a head-scratcher for police, because they're thinking, okay, well, was it one person that attacked Fred downstairs and then ran upstairs and shut and locked the door immediately?
This sound like the story we watched on that chapter. I forgot their name. When the wife, where she just happened to have that seizure and go away when what happened to her husband, whatever. I don't remember exactly. I was paraphrasing, but it's kind of giving me those vibes. Like, yo, what the hell? Because I'm not gonna lie, right now it's not really adding up, but it's not really connecting either. I went back about a good 30-45 seconds. I want to hear something real quick.
And before she could even turn around to go investigate, she said the closet door was swinging shut, and then she heard it lock from the outside, and she didn't get to see who it was that shut the door. The whole thing was a bit of a head scratcher for police, because they're thinking, okay, well, Was it one person that attacked Fred downstairs and then ran upstairs and shut and locked the door immediately afterwards before Dolly could come out and see? Or was there two people, one person downstairs attacking and one person upstairs shutting and locking the door?
Or was it
more than two people? And despite the house being totally ransacked and there being
in my head, I'm gonna let the story finish.
Lots of valuable stuff in their house, Dolly said the only thing she could tell was missing was the diamond-encrusted wristwatch that Fred always wore. It was not on his wrist when they discovered his body. And why, detectives wondered, were these burglars or this burglar carrying a .25 caliber weapon? Something that small was more likely to be found in a woman's purse than in a home invasion. When police spoke to neighbors, they were quick to say Fred and Dolly fought all the time, and earlier that night they had gotten into a really bad one. But as much as police wanted to point the finger at Dolly, it was just impossible for her to have committed this crime, because how could she have murdered Fred and then ran upstairs and locked herself in the closet from the outside and then also somehow deposited that key across the hall in another room? It just didn't make any sense. But since the police had little else to go on, they dug into the new widow's past. Dolly was born in Germany in 1880, and following a move to Milwaukee, Wisconsin just before the turn of the century, she married Fred, who was 3 years older than her. Fred was driven and successful, but he was also a raging alcoholic and prone to violence. And so as Fred built up his textile empire, opening up factory after factory all across the Midwest, their marriage grew strained. He was mean and she was lonely. When they moved from Milwaukee to Southern California in 1918, their new neighbors immediately were aware of the fact that Dolly and Fred fought loudly and often, and they frequently bickered in public. Police looked high and low to see if Dolly had maybe taken a lover, but no one had ever seen her with anyone but Fred. And so while they might be miserable, they seemed to be faithful. And so try as they might, the police could find no clues
I don't think it's gonna be her.
Anything darker or more dangerous.
Damn, I did read the description, but it kind of hinted at who did it. It didn't actually say who did it in the description. Let's see. They realized that death had been close to the murdered businessman for years before he was killed. Yeah, see? So that could be anybody. That could be an employee. That could be a friend. It could be her. It could be a relative. Hey, so, all right, I was right. I just want to make sure I ain't make myself look stupid. Doggy the red the shit and still forgot. I don't want what he smoking. Oh, I'm dying, bitch. Get off my watch, bitch. Bitch. But I'm not gonna lie, though. Back to the actual video. For some reason, I'm not thinking it was her, because I don't think she would have stolen the watch. If she really wanted that watch that bad, I think she would have just stolen it from him without offing him. But then again, I don't know, though. I am just assuming at this point. I don't think it's her.
Police looked high and low to see if Dolly had maybe taken a lover, but no one had ever seen her with anyone but Fred. And so while they might be miserable, they seemed to be faithful. And
also the story is making me really not like her very early on.
Her with anyone but Fred. And so while they might be miserable, they seemed to be faithful. And so try as they might, the police could find no clues that suggested anything darker or more dangerous than a petty and meaningless marriage. The case hung open, and suspicion continued to trail Dolly, even though it was physically impossible for her to have committed the crime. Now free from her unhappy marriage, Dolly moved into a new home in Los Angeles, and she took up with her estate lawyer, Herman Shapiro, who was handling her husband's $1 million estate. But just like her late husband, her new boyfriend, Shapiro, worked long hours, and he was not around much, so she was lonely all over again. So she went out and got another boyfriend, a guy by the name of Roy Klum, and she began seeing the men at the same time. A year after Fred's death, Captain Herman Klein of the Beverly Hills Police Department dropped by Dolly's estate lawyer / boyfriend's office. Detectives were still suspicious of Dolly, even though the case
sounds a little wild, but you really don't. I mean, the reason why she was in a long marriage that she did hate, as we can clearly hear. I mean, it's effed up what happened. Definitely rest in peace. But I mean, it could be an out for her, though. I'm just playing devil's advocate at this point. So now that I'm free, feel like the handcuffs are off, which will be the wedding ring. I'm a dabble here. I'm a dabble there, because now the whole face is coming back out, and we're human. So let's not act like we do not understand that. So I'm not gonna lie, just yet. I'm not blaming her. I'm not gonna put my foot in my mouth. Shapiro was handling. All right, I'm gonna watch the video.
Lawyer / boyfriend's office. Detectives were still suspicious of Dolly, even though the case still made no sense. And so Captain Klein goes into Shapiro's office, and wouldn't you know it, sitting on the desk is this beautiful diamond-encrusted wristwatch that looks an awful lot like the watch Dolly claimed was the one thing stolen from her house on the night of her husband's murder. When the captain asked Shapiro how he got this watch, Shapiro told him that Dolly had given it to him as a gift, but I know where you're going with this because I thought the same thing too. I know about the missing diamond watch on the night of the murder. I asked Dolly about it when she gave it to me, and she told me that that was actually a mistake. The watch was never missing, and she later on found it tucked underneath a sofa cushion in the living room. The captain was not buying this, and so as soon as he left Shapiro's office, he immediately confronted Dolly about the watch, and Dolly said, you know what, that's right. I did find the watch, but I didn't think it was that important, so I didn't tell you guys. The captain...
It's evidence! I'm kind of blaming it a little bit again. Nigga, it's dark. Stop playing with me.
I did find the watch, but I didn't think it was that important, so I didn't tell you guys. The captain couldn't believe what he was hearing. And shortly after, the newspapers found out about this new twist in this totally bizarre case, and they went...
It's amazing, isn't it? 3 days of...
I'm gonna let this ad play. Because at one point I was thinking maybe it was a setup though. Maybe she wanted to get free and she was already messing with Shapiro. He was already involved in the money, handling the money. So hey, don't worry about that part. We'll transition all that over. So I am thinking that a little bit like, all right, so damn, this shutter ad is bright. So I was thinking like, okay, maybe she had him do it just to set it up so it could be our getaway, whatever. But that feels too easy.
You guys. The captain couldn't believe what he was hearing. And shortly after, the newspapers found out about this new twist in this totally bizarre case, and they went wild with it, putting all the heat back on Dolly. Spooked by the headlines, Dolly's second boyfriend, Roy Klum, came forward to the police and said, I have a confession to make. Dolly made me hide one of her 25 caliber pistols, and I threw it in the La Brea tar pits. And then before police could even go get that gun, one of Dolly's neighbors came forward and said, yeah, I got a confession to make.
What the hell?
Dolly asked me to get rid of a 25 caliber pistol, and I buried it in my backyard. So police went out and recovered both weapons, but they were so badly rusted, they couldn't confirm if they were in fact the murder weapons. And Dolly had an excuse. When the police confronted her with these guns, she said, oh yeah, those old things, I've had those in the house for years, but you know, given the circumstances of my husband's death, just felt a little awkward keeping them around the house, so I had some friends get rid of them. The police were not buying this, and so in July of 1923, they arrested Dolly for killing Fred. But despite these new developments, the facts of the case had not changed. It was still physically impossible for Dolly to have committed this crime. She was locked in the closet from the outside. And so with Dolly in jail awaiting trial, investigators tirelessly hacked into her story to try to find holes in it, but they had no success. And so after every theory that might connect her to the crime was ultimately discarded, they had to drop the murder charges and Dolly was released. 7 years went by and the crime was largely forgotten about. And then in 1930, Dolly and her estate lawyer boyfriend Shapiro, they broke up. And Shapiro immediately called the police and said,
I know it.
I haven't been entirely truthful. I know a lot more about what happened to Fred than I've let on, and in fact, I have someone in the office with me right now that can tell you the whole story. Investigators flew to Shapiro's office, they go through the doors, and sitting inside is a man they never knew existed. His name was Otto Sandhuber. He was a quiet, small...
So really quick here, let me go back. Hold on, I went back real quick. I was focused on the wrong thing, but yo, that's hella weak though. But soon, isn't that like an accomplice or something like that? You have this information, but you're just holding it because you're still on good terms with this person. But once things go bad, boom, all right, now I'm gonna let you know some ish. Like, all right, but we needed that information forever ago. Well, no, my bad. Accomplice would be someone who, like, if you help during the crime, right? Like if you were distraction some kind of way, my bad. I think, I got Google, I know it, but oh well.
I've been entirely truthful. I know a lot more about what happened to Fred than I've let on, and in fact, I have someone in the office with me right now that can tell you the whole story. Investigators flew to Shapiro's office, they go through the doors, and sitting inside is a man they never knew existed. His name was Otto Sandhuber. He was a quiet, small sewing machine repairman / aspiring dime store fiction writer. And the story he would tell them would be more bizarre and lurid than any investigator could have imagined. It began almost a decade before the murder. When Otto was a teenager, he had worked for Fred in one of his Milwaukee factories. One day in 1913, Dolly complained to Fred that her sewing machine was broken. And so Fred asked one of his employees, who he knew was a sewing machine repairman, the then 17-year-old Otto, if he would go over to his house and fix the sewing machine for his wife. Dolly knew her husband was going to send Otto specifically to their house, and she was very attracted to Otto. And so when Otto showed up, all she had on was a silk robe, stockings, and heavy perfume. Thus began Dolly and Otto's affair, which at first they conducted in a pretty typical way, meeting secretly in hotels, but when that became burdensome, they moved their relationship back into the ostrich home, with Otto needing to sneak in and out around Fred's schedule. But it wasn't long before nosy neighbors were asking Dolly, who's that strange man coming around your house all the time? And she would say, oh, that's my vagabond half-brother. But Dolly and Otto knew they couldn't continue in this way. But instead of breaking it off or returning to secret hotel liaisons, Dolly decided that Otto should take up residence in the ostrich home in a secret hideaway in the attic. That way no one would see him coming or going. Otto, who had no family to miss him, quit his job at the factory, moved into the secret room, and then never left. Pretty quickly, Otto and Dolly fell into
Whole time, wife is just cheating on you. Relationship is done. But you don't even know the dude she cheating on you with. Right there, sleep. Not even being funny. This is 17. It's like I so bad just want to say at this point, man, just wrap it up. You gotta let Fred know, like, man, this ain't working. We gotta end it. This is extreme, dude. And you know what I'm still thinking though? I'm thinking he gonna get tired of hiding, or one day he gonna get caught. So you have to do what you have to do, but he ain't gonna want her to know. So he gonna slam the closet and lock her in there. She gonna be in there because he obviously got a bird's eye view. I take it. So he gonna be looking down with it. She gonna be in there. He just gonna be like, you know what, F this. Close it, lock it, go do what I gotta do, boom, boom, boom. I don't know. This is the craziest story I've ever heard in my damn life. Probably
into
not,
the secret room
crazy.
and then never left. Pretty quickly, Otto and Dolly fell into a routine where when Fred would leave for work for the day, Otto would come downstairs, they'd spend time together, and then Otto would clean the house and then make bathtub gin. Before Fred came home, Otto would sneak back upstairs to write pulp stories about lust and adventure, and he would read newspapers and magazines by candlelight. Around this time, Fred started complaining to Dolly about strange noises in the house. He also started to notice they were running through food a lot faster than normal, and a couple times he thought he was short a cigar. But no matter how much Fred complained, Dolly was always able to convince him that everything he was hearing and seeing was in his head. And so over the next 5 years, they would live in 4 homes in Milwaukee, and always these strange sounds and oddities about the house would follow them, but Fred never investigated.
That's messed up. There ain't no ghost. That's crazy. Fred probably legit think he going crazy. Maybe I know I ain't tripping. This is the 4th house we done bought. What the fuck was that? See? And Snoop said it best. We don't love them hoes. Stop playing.
By candlelight. Around this time, Fred started complaining to Dolly about strange noises in the house. He also started to notice they were running through food a lot faster than normal, and a couple times he thought he was short a cigar. But no matter how much Fred complained, Dolly was always able to convince him that everything he was hearing and seeing was in his head. And so over the next 5 years, they would live in 4 homes in Milwaukee, and always these strange sounds and oddities about the house would follow them, but Fred never investigated. In 1918, Fred told Dolly he wanted to move to Southern California. And so Dolly hunted down a house with an attic, a rarity in the area, and she sent Otto ahead. When Fred and Dolly arrived, Otto was already ensconced in the attic, and Fred moved in right beneath him. By the time Fred and Dolly got in their final argument on the night of August 22nd, 1922, Otto had been secretly living with them for almost a decade. On that deadly night, Otto was in his secret room listening to drunk Fred getting louder and angrier and clearly getting physical with Dolly. And so worried that he might kill his lover, Otto leapt out of the attic and ran downstairs carrying 2 .25 caliber pistols. He runs into the living room and he confronts Fred. And Fred is astounded to see his formerly teenage sewing machine repairman, who abruptly quit the factory so suddenly and completely, now standing in his living room. And so Fred lunged at Otto, and Otto just started shooting. It was then that Dolly hatched the scheme that had almost...
no way y'all would have did that. I mean, okay, wait, so actually let me redo that, because I'm approaching this wrong. Because at first I was thinking there's no way I would have jumped in front of this to defend my relationship from this guy who has 2 guns pointed at me after knowing what's going on. No, there's no way I would have done that. But that's really using hindsight. But legit in reality, I don't know, maybe he knew, but in reality, this man Fred probably walking legit, probably think he's running from ghosts in the ish. It's like, yo, at this point, all I see is this guy in front of me, whatever, with two guns aiming at me. So I'm surprised. So he probably was legit thinking, I have to protect me and my wife. So he probably was, that's just what I'm assuming at this point. Probably because there's no way I would have just, using hindsight, I would have just ran and still tried to defend it. I would have said, you know what, F that. Take her ass. Y'all can go ahead and do what y'all do. But yeah, this was messed up, dog. I really hope she was still alive when they cracked the shit and she went down. Let me guess, she wasn't, huh? I don't know.
And Fred is astounded to see his formerly teenage sewing machine repairman, who abruptly quit the factory so suddenly and completely, now standing in his living room. And so Fred lunged at Otto, and Otto just started shooting. It was then that Dolly hatched the scheme that had almost let them get away with it. Knowing the police would be there any minute, Dolly staged the house to look like a robbery. She told Otto to lock her inside of the closet and then ordered him to go back up into the attic. And so when the police got there, Otto was crouched silently right above their heads. After the killing, Otto moved in with Dolly in her new house, and even though they could have had a normal open relationship, Dolly ordered Otto to go live in the attic of this new house as well. It wasn't until a year later, when Dolly was briefly arrested after the police found out about the hidden guns, that Otto was forced to come out of the attic. While Dolly was sitting in jail for these gun charges, she begged her estate lawyer boyfriend, Shapiro, to go get groceries for her vagabond half-brother, Otto, who lived in her attic. She said, when you delivered them, make sure you go to the bedroom and knock on the ceiling. That will let him know it's safe to come out. But when Shapiro arrived and followed the procedure and Otto came out, Otto was so starved for human interaction and conversation that he wound up telling Shapiro the whole insane story. But instead of going to police, Shapiro told Otto that he should just leave. And he did. He went and became a janitor and he got married. The secret—
Wait, hold up at this. Oh my gosh, this overreactor. She legit groomed this dude, legit raised him, like molded this dude into something. Because I mean, at 17, and he got this woman in front of him. I'm sure he probably was aroused, turned on, couldn't believe what was happening. Jumped to the opportunity. Look, we're human. We know it happened. Whatever, it's effed up. So now at this point, my mind is legit understanding how evil she is, dude. Even after Fred was gone, rest in peace, you still have to continue to live this way. Because you still have to continue to sound like to be her sex slave, to be her slave, to be her child in a way. Damn near wondering if a pet at this point. And at 17, I do question, but at this point, I am kind of approaching from personal experience. Like, could an older lady who I feel like giving me everything I want as far as financially and the sex I need, want the food, you know, the hospitality, all that ish. At 17, like, could she legit mold me into this figure where it's like, yo, this is all I want, this is all I know? Me, honestly, just being 100 with you, me at 17, I don't think so. And I hate to take it to personal experience. And we at the end of the video anyway, so I'm gonna talk a little bit ish. But I remember being in college. But I was like 18 though, and it was this woman. I'll call it what it is. I was like, no, I was 19. I was 19. But she was a nurse, and she legit tried her hardest. TMI at this point, please fast forward. Legit try her hardest to make me settle down and be the, you know, the boyfriend girlfriend type. But stop playing. At 19 in college on my own. You gonna hate what I'm about to say, but shit, it was just a hold of me. So that's all I kept getting. And now I was legit just leading on. It was messed up, though. I was young, and then she finally understood, like, yo, I can't make this boy settle down with me because of what happened. So I said it to say this. So the story does have a connection. I said to say this. Even at 17, I don't think I would have went that route. Like, nah, this got hella evil.
Brother Otto, who lived in her attic. She said, when you delivered them, make sure you go to the bedroom and knock on the ceiling. That will let him know it's safe to come out. But when Shapiro arrived and followed the procedure and Otto came out, Otto was so starved for human interaction and conversation that he wound up telling Shapiro the whole insane story. But instead of going to police, Shapiro told Otto that he should just leave. And he did. He went and became a janitor and he got married. The secret held until Dolly and Shapiro broke up for good, at which point Shapiro called the police. Dolly and Otto were arrested and the press went insane. They called this the Batman case because Otto was living like a bat in a cave. This was before Batman the comic was a thing. Otto was convicted of manslaughter,
Damn.
but the statute of limitations was up, so he was allowed to walk free. As for Dolly, she was allowed to walk free too because the jury...
Oh, my bad, because I'm putting my own Batman show conspiracies together. My bad, let me go back. I'm thinking of shit now. Oh, yeah. So at first I was like, okay, he lived in a cave. But I was like, no, it makes sense. He's a freaking bat. But he do have that one person. I'm not a Batman fan. I don't know his name. What's his name? His butler, the dude who raised him, take care of him, right? What is his name? Let's look it up real quick. My bad. Assistant name. Alfred. That's who it is. Alfred. There we go, Alfred. I got it now. See, don't be triggered. You know Superman will whoop his ass. Oh, you know he's coming, but he's doing. Shut up. No, he won't. He's human, dog. He would not. No, I understand he's smart, but he ain't that so raven. And Superman is a freaking alien, dog. Only problem is Clark Kent. That's his name. Look, only problem is he's too nice, dog. Let it be like me and the Superman powers. I bet I beat the shit off Batman. Clark Kent, he ain't got the mentality. He got all them powers, but he ain't got the balls to do that. If he was from Flint, he'd got robbed.
Good, at which point Shapiro called the police. Dolly and Otto were arrested, and the press went insane. They called this the Batman case because Otto was living like a bat in a cave. This was before Batman the comic was a thing. Otto was convicted of manslaughter, but the statute of limitations was up, so he was allowed to walk free. As for Dolly, she was allowed to walk free too because the jury hung on her conspiracy to commit murder charges. After the trial, Otto disappeared and nothing more is known about him. As for Dolly, she stayed in LA and she died in 1961 at the age of 80, 2 weeks after marrying yet again. So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's episode, let us know in the
she's
comments
an nympho,
what
right?
it is and where you found it.
And not judging, because, I mean, just last year, I just started trying to control my itch. Like, yo, I got to calm down, dog. But, yo, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the video here because I did a hefty amount of talking towards the end already, so I don't want to talk your ears off here. But this legit felt like, it felt more like a book. I wanted to say movie, but no, it really felt like a book. Like, this one would just be like a crazy read because we did a good amount of talking, but I legit felt like she was at a point where it was like, yeah, you can't control yourself. And I think it was actually going past sex because I was like, at that point, she might as well ask her husband, like, yo, can we have an open relationship? I don't know if cuck was a thing back then. Like, yo, can we do that? Because I'm obviously freaking addicted. So I was like, was it just like a sex thing? But it sounded a little controlling as well because I don't know if it was just because Otto allowed it and she kind of raised him this way because since 17 this is what he knew. So since he allowed it, like, of course I'm going to keep it up with him because this is where it works at. So I don't know if she did that with everyone or if it was just, well, tried to be controlling like that with everyone, or it was just him because he didn't really go in depth with everyone else's relationship with her, which I get why, because the connection to the story here. But yo, either way, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here though. If you enjoyed the video, go and click the like button. I appreciate it. Enjoy your day, morning, evening, night, whenever you're watching this video. But I'm out.